My first introduction to visionary filmmaker Park Chan-wook was in high school. I was already something of a major cinephile, and at the time I was really getting into things like Man Bites Dog and High and Low. A family friend asked me what it was that I liked so much about these movies, and I, being 14 and stupid, said, "I don't know, man. The violence?" And they told me I would love something called the Vengeance Trilogy. Park Chan-wook's collection of revenge-based thrillers started with 2002's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, followed by Oldboy in 2003, which is easily the most popular of the three, and with Lady Vengeance as the grand finale. From the moment that I started Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, I was smitten. I quickly immersed myself in Park's filmography. Park Chan-wook's films were visceral and violent fairy tales. They could be gruesome and unsettling, but utterly fascinating all the same. At the time, considering the over-enthusiastic affection I had for violent movies for whatever fucking reason, I was surprised that my favorite movie from his filmography then was his least violent. It was also his sweetest. The story behind the creation of I'm a Cyborg, But That's Okay is sweet. Filmmaking is a rigorous and unforgiving process that requires people to be away from their families and friends for months on end. Park was away from home often. He shot Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Oldboy back to back. Being away from home, away from his wife and young daughter, began to weigh on him, and he felt bad that he would be gone for so long, and the films he made were things his daughter wouldn't be able to see for a long time. So he made I'm a Cyborg. It's a love letter to his daughter, a gift, something of her father's that she could actually see and enjoy. In an interview with Screen Talk in 2008, Park was quoted as saying, "The main reason, however, is the fact that I wanted to make a film for my daughter. It's kind of a present to her, so she can see and watch it and enjoy it. She's got a father who's a film director, but she hasn't seen any of his work. That was a present." And the result is a silly, charming romance. Inspired by anime and pop music, the art direction for the film was a whimsical feast of bright colors and memorable images. Ryu Sung-hee, a production designer who has been a frequent collaborator of Park's and Bong Joon-ho's, having done work on Thirst and Oldboy and The Host and Mother, said she always tries to find a balance between fantasy and reality with the films she takes on. "I'd say fantasy is easier to achieve because of being able to create your own world without the limits of reality." In Cyborg, Park Il-soon, played by V. Rain. V. Rain is a character who believes he can steal the souls of others, and he is terrified of disappearing.
좀 어찌 그러니?
벗었는데 내가 안 보이면?
Ryu used this as inspiration for the look of the film. I used very timid, almost transparent pastel colors compared to the other films. Pale pink, pale green, and I got the inspiration for that from the worries of the characters in the hospital, people who themselves are almost transparent and afraid they might disappear. The result is a wonderland of alluring oddities and fascinating pictures. With its strange plot, the film is considered one of those that you either love or hate. It's a bizarre story, and its pop surrealism will either compel you or repel you. Its characters can be strange and their stories otherworldly, but in the heart of this fantasy rest notions that are all too common in reality, like the universal fear of isolation, our constant quest for meaning, and the craving we have for true connection. Cha Young-gun believes she is a cyborg. After an incident at work in which she's electrocuted after trying to charge herself, she's forcefully institutionalized by her family. This is a problem for more than the obvious reasons, because Young-gun has a mission. Shortly before her incident at work, her grandmother, the person she's closest to, was also institutionalized for believing herself to be a rat and only eating radishes. When she was taken, she left her dentures behind, and without them she can't eat her precious radishes. So, Young-gun has a mission to get the dentures to her grandmother safely. Being institutionalized wouldn't be quite a hindrance to her mission if she was fully charged, which she can tell by all of her toes lighting up. Young-gun has foregone food for a long time, and now, in the facility, she only licks batteries in the hopes that it will help her save her grandmother. But there's another problem she realizes. She doesn't want to defeat the White Coats for her escape because she feels too much sympathy, which is one of the 7 deadly sins.
동정심 때문이 아니길 바라겠어요. 동정심이 칠거지약 중 으뜸이란 사실은 알고 있겠죠. 참고로 나머지 6가지는 다음과 같아요. 슬픔에 잠기는 것, 설레임, 망설임, 쓸데없는 공상, 죄책감, 감사하는 마음. 이상 순서는 나쁜 순서대로였어요.
Il-soon, an ex-electrical engineer who believes he can steal the souls of others, catches wind of Yong-gun's admittance. He has a reputation in the community for stealing not only ideas and feelings and possessions, but also souls. Stealing, he says, is the only time he can feel something. He carries around a picture of his mother who abandoned him and cites it as the most painful memory he has.
15살 때 어머니가 집을 나가시면서 화장실에 있던 전동 칫솔 가족 세트를
He spends a lot of time mulling over this event, why she left, if she'll ever come back, and he keeps the picture in his pocket at all times. Naturally, when Yong-gun realizes she has too much sympathy, she asks him for help.
뭘 훔쳐달라고 자꾸 부탁을 하면 그게 훔치는 게 아니잖아. 주는 거 받아오는 거지.
So he steals her sympathy, and then he adopts it. He goes from being numb to everything to feeling everything, especially concern for Yong-gun, whose condition worsens. It's not only sympathy, he's also fallen in love. Eventually, Yong-gun's refusal to eat leads to her being hospitalized in a separate part of the facility.
사흘만 더 굶으면요. 차영군님 죽습니다.
And Il-sun hatches a plan to save her. In a show of selflessness, he makes a gadget that will convert Yong-gun's food into electrical energy so that her battery is always charged.
영구님 라이스 메가트론이야. 밥 열량을 전기 에너지로 전환시켜주는 장치.
She starts to eat again, and the two have an oddly sweet, happy, sad ending. For the characters, their institutionalization deepens the anxiety that they will cease to exist. For each of them, their existence was often ignored while they were actively in society, and after being made to stay at a mental institution, their existence is hidden away from the rest of the world. They are afraid of going unseen, of being forgotten. For Il-soon in particular, he's afraid that he's shrinking, that he's going to continue getting smaller and smaller until he's nothing.
판사가 나한테만 들리게 이러는 거예요.
피고 박일수는 장차 점으로 소멸될 것이다.
For him, it isn't only being institutionalized, but also being abandoned as a child that fuels this fear. If people don't love you, and they don't see you, do you really exist? Is the question that plagues him. His reason for holding on to the photograph of his mother is part of this. She was the last person to love him until she didn't, and he wonders if there's a way he can find out why that is, if there's something that he could have done differently that would have prevented her leaving. Yong-gun's relationship with her grandmother is the best one she has. Everyone else is cold and dismissive. When she has the incident at work, her co-workers don't notice what's happening for a while. Her mother hides her away in shame even before she was institutionalized, telling her to make herself as small as possible. This fear of being isolated and being invisible is partly fueled by the quest we all embark on, the quest for meaning in life. Purpose is something that Yong-gun struggles with throughout the bulk of the film. She knows she's a cyborg, but she doesn't know what her purpose is, what she's meant to achieve with her abilities.
근데 말이야, 나는 기계치고는 사용 설명서도 없고 라벨 같은 것도 안 붙어있고 책도 몰라, 내용도가 뭔지.
She has frequent dreams of her grandmother trying to tell her the meaning of life, but she can never hear the answer. This phenomenon now is called purpose anxiety, and it's inescapable, especially in the modern day. Purpose anxiety can be provisionally defined as the negative emotions experienced in direct relation to the search for purpose. And though the name purpose anxiety is still a relatively new thing, psychologists have always acknowledged the fear and anxiety that comes with questioning meaning and purpose. In a world of standards where you're made to feel that you're meant to have accomplished this, that, and the other by a certain age, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and disappointed when you haven't achieved that. And after she's put away, made to sit and wait for nothing in particular, she questions this more and more. What's the purpose in life? Because it's certainly not this. is the question that plagues her. The expectations we set for people, that you should graduate by this time, that you should be married and have kids by this time, have a real impact on the way we view ourselves. Personally, I'm not interested in getting married right now, but because I'm hearing it from every fucking direction, I find myself occasionally feeling disappointed that I haven't achieved something that I don't even want. That's how it is. And in the thick of this, you can forget the goals you want to achieve, the things you want to do with your life, because those things may not be a visible component of how the world measures success. In a recent article penned by Ann Babe for Wired, she discusses the phenomenon of hikikomori. Hikikomori is a Japanese word used to describe both the action of socially withdrawing from society and the people who do it. The term was coined by psychologist Saito Tamaki. In his book, he described hikikomori as reclusive people who don't leave their homes or rooms for more than 6 months. Cases of hikikomori are widespread, but psychologists have described the phenomenon as being unique to Asian culture. And in Babe's article, which I highly recommend reading, she showcases the difficulty of re-entering society during a global pandemic, specifically in Korea. In this article, the thing that was most common among the people interviewed was that they felt they, quote, can't cope with South Korea's ultra-competitive society, and that their own unconventional passions were dismissed by friends and family. Yi Sung-taek, 24, says that not having any lofty plans for the future made him a social outcast. All he wanted was to earn a decent living and lead a simple life. But that wasn't ambitious enough for everyone else. Lead psychologist Park Dae-ryung says that this atmosphere, along with a poor job market, has put overwhelming pressure on people to perform, while disincentivizing collaboration, discouraging the pursuit of passions, and exacerbating feelings of inadequacy, disappointment, and anxiety. I'm a Cyborg came out in 2006, a time when hikikomori were already becoming well known in society. Only 2 years later, Loner, a horror film about hikikomori, would be released to the world. It'd be too much to say that this phenomenon specifically was on Park's mind when he wrote the question of purpose into the story, mainly because long before purpose anxiety or hikikomori were terms, worrying about the meaning of life was and always will be a prevalent source of uncertainty and discomfort. Regardless, this element of the story is universal, as is the way we strive for a connection. The best part of any relationship is the part where you're already comfortable around each other, where you understand, respect, and just know each other. Because all of us simply want a connection, and that doesn't always have to be romantic. But we all crave being known and seen and understood. The biggest motif of searching for a connection is Young-gun's radio. At 3 points in the film, she extends the antenna as high as it will go, hoping to connect with, first, a higher frequency, then her grandmother, and lastly, the lightning that will give her life purpose. And as the antenna extends and extends, arms are reaching out for someone, for something, to embrace them. Il-sun's thievery can be viewed the same way. He doesn't steal just for the hell of it, but because when he steals something important to someone else, like their grandmother's dentures or, their souls, he catches a glimpse of what it feels like to be them, of knowing and understanding and connecting. Connection can be the end-all, be-all of any relationship. When Il-sun and Young-gun fall in love, it's after they've come to understand, believe, and respect each other. Il-sun knows Young-gun is a cyborg, and he also knows that she needs to eat, so he invents the rice megatron. They both believe it, and that's an integral part of their bond. The most beautiful part of this film is when Il-sun works on Young-gun. He finds the door to her battery pack, he cleans out the dust from all the wires and machinery, and gives her his most important possession to save her life. It's imaginative and sweet and funny. I fucking love it. All of these themes are made plain in the film and relate not only to the universal concerns we have each and every day, but to the relationship between Park and his daughter, to the purpose of this film's existence, the isolation his daughter may have felt by his absence, his own quest for purpose in art and in life, and the connection between them salvaged by a love letter of a movie. Even today, I'm a Cyborg is still high on my list of favorite Park films. My feelings on it haven't changed much, beyond loving it more than I already did. It's a timeless fantasy about life and purpose and love, but more importantly, it's about knowing and accepting the people we welcome into our lives, as well as ourselves. I'm a cyborg, but that's okay.